Hello, this is Joel Dietz of Ethercasts here with Vitalik of Ethereum, who has just gone through the first 24 hours of the crowd sale, raising, I believe, more than 3 million USD, which is a pretty good start. And Vitalik, what are your thoughts and feelings at this moment?
It's good. It's good that it's finally happening. We've been trying to get a sale launched for about half a year now, and the development has been kind of slower than we had hoped because we didn't have that much funding. But that particular phase is over, and hopefully we'll be able to really start accelerating the actual development of the product and get things done in 6 months as we had originally hoped.
So, what do you think are the sort of minimum funding requirement that you need to build a platform stuff?
For Ethereum 1.0, I would say in the $5 to $10 million range.
And it seemed like, if I remember correctly from your budget, a whole million of that was allocated for legal. Is that?
So the 1 million is basically a legal contingency fund. So our legal advice had basically told us that, worst case scenario, fully fledged court case would take around a million to fight. So we figure it's worth keeping that million just to be safe.
Do you mind sharing anything about how much it costs to get these legal docs in order that you guys have now, or
the ones that have now? I think our legal costs were somewhere in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
pretty high upfront costs then right now for anyone looking to do a crowd sale and be as exhaustive as you guys have been.
Yeah, I mean the nice thing is that we've done all of this stuff, and we'd like to make as much of the results of our efforts as we can open for other groups to use potentially.
And you are doing this through a Swiss entity that's going to be dissolved after the crowd sale is complete. Is that right? What was the motivating?
It'll be dissolved after Ethereum 1.0 is launched. So there's some fairly intricate legal arguments around that. It's basically there's some complexities involving having an entity and having an actual tradable token at the same time.
So does that mean you're going to full DAO after the dissolution of that entity, or what's the kind of?
We don't really have. So we don't really have that fixed long-term plans at this point. Like we have intentions. We have the idea that we also have this nonprofit foundation, and we intend to be doing cryptocurrency research. But the further you go into the future, the more hazy things are at this point.
And so I guess there's no longer any team anything on the Ethereum website, which is a little bit odd given that it was such a prominent feature before. Can you comment on that?
We just figured that it's everyone was sort of unhappy about that page in their own different ways. Some people weren't on it. Some people were happy. Some people were annoyed that people who weren't really contributing were on it. So we just decided that it might be simpler to put all that off to a separate section of the website. So there actually will still be a who page in another location. And at this point, the intent is to sort of organize it in two levels, where one is the team, it's everyone, the core team, everyone who's getting paid, and then all of the volunteers.
And so what is the sort of base organizational structure then? Are you guys operating out of that Swiss entity, or is there kind of some ad hoc board, or how does
we have the nonprofit foundation, then we have the entity that's conducting the sale as a Swiss company owned by the foundation. So both of those have boards. Basically, they're entities.
So there's a sort of standard legal structure that you guys are operating in the context of then?
Yeah, there's a standard legal structure. The full details are actually available, I think, in our development plan.
Oh, okay. And so has anything changed recently? I noticed the one little change is that the inflation is now 26% of the total first sale rather than 30 or whatever it was before.
Yeah, before it was 30, before that it was 50.
So, what motivated that change? Was there some complex
First
formula?
of all, well, the 30 to 26 drop was small. Basically, the idea is that we were the pre-mine was cut down, so we figured it might make sense to cut it down proportionately.
And any other changes that you'd like to comment on since February or when we were kind of
So
last?
the two pre-mines, basically, there's one for early contributors at 9.9%, and then an endowment at 9.9%. So it's about 3 times smaller than we had been intending to in January, maybe about 50% smaller than April. The price of Ether is going to be 1337 ETH per BTC at the end, and 2000 Ether per Bitcoin now. Duration 42 days instead of 60. I think those are probably the main details in terms of the specifics of the sale itself. But then there's, of course, all of the progress around the actual Ethereum project.
Yeah. So, and that's been pretty good so far. Do you concur? Or
Yeah. So the thing that we launched concurrently with the sale is Proof of Concept 5, where C++ and Go are interoperable. Which is a pretty important milestone because this idea of having 2 distinct implementations of a Turing-complete programming language always give the exact same answer in all cases. In some ways, it's sort of like a NASA level effort in terms of the precision and carefulness that it requires. So it'll probably be one of the hardest things that we'll have to do, especially once the other 2 clients start getting more in sync. But I think it's a good one. If we do that, then we'll be. It's a way of being absolutely sure that there aren't any crazy issues with the protocol. We've seen with Bitcoin that the bugs kept on popping up even like 3 years down the line.
is there any move to standardize the sort of scripting language? Because I know that there's a little bit of a bunch of. Obviously, you have the kind of system level stuff, but
the scripting language is it's. The structure is basically finished, but there's a couple of opcodes that still might change. So we might look at standardizing it. It's basically the Ethereum virtual machine and the Ethereum scripting platform. It is something that's actually very useful, even independently of Ethereum, the blockchain. So if in general, for example, if he wants to do sort of trustworthy computation, not so much trustworthy computation, but verifiable computation. So computation where you could submit a challenge and say, prove that everything between step 6200 and step 6600 was done legitimately, or provide some kind of deterministic stack trace, or even cryptographically verify portions of stack traces combined with Merkle trees. So there's a whole bunch of applications of that kind of technology. I could easily see groups like Open Transactions coming to use it at some point, and so that's definitely something that probably should be standardized and almost packaged up into an independent solution.
So it seems like it's been an extremely positive 24 hours. Are there any concerns you have either about the crowd sale or just kind of development in the next 6 to 8 months? What are the core risks that you see moving forward?
Risks at this point, not that many. It's just a matter of taking the money, really spinning up the development hubs and just getting things done.
Yeah, I know that in the past you had talked about transparency. Obviously, that's something that people come when they look at Swarm and say, how transparent are you guys going to be?
Right.
And you talked about that quite a lot. What are your plans for that?
Yeah, we want to be as transparent as we practically can be. It's still something that we're figuring out in some respects.
So you don't have any specific plans for that at this point? Kind of how that will happen or...
Specific plans, no. I mean, at this point, we haven't even begun spending the first Bitcoin out of the Exodus address, so...
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great, Vitalik. I wish you guys the best, definitely, and, very excited to see how things develop, both with the crowd sale and platform development.
Yeah, thank you.
Until next time.
You too.
Bye.